rotation, of course, you're talking about it right. We're going over to brackish. It's on that hard difficulty, and there's going to be a Mandel brick. So think about the spawns that we've been seeing. Typically, you'll see maybe 1 or 2 teams in the new Tower Babel. Sometimes, if they're unlucky, you'll have that 3rd team that spawns just outside of it. But for the majority of our teams that spawn up in the north or nearby the Royal Museum, in which that Mandel brick will spawn, that's going to favor you, right? But are you bold enough to go ahead and grab the Mandel brick and rush it off to one of the several decoding stations? We've seen Asura Camp go absolutely crazy. We've seen so many different things. But when you think about decoding, you need to have an engineer operate.
Yeah, I agree. I think having some sort of defensive operator is helpful for holding that decoding station. Here's a quick look, by the way, at the operator usages across the board for our teams. Notably, 4 out of 6 teams went for Nox to start things off. Again, the players basically told me, now I like playing Nox, but the players basically told me, hey, he's kind of out of the meta, so we want to kind of burn him early so that we've got a ton of usage for the operators we want to use in this competitive mode, which I think is a fair assessment. Saw a couple, it looks like half of our lobby ended up using D-Wolf as well. And it was only 1 team that is out of stingers across the board. So as we move into brackish, will be interesting to see what the operator choices are, but even more interesting to take a look at this map. And Tiff, so as not to monologue too much before we start, I will say this is the first Mandel brick round for North America, so I do want to explain to the people at home how this works very quickly. Mandel bricks are everything. Yes, once it's stolen, it resets the timer. So you can see it stolen 10, 15 times potentially. The lowest that timer can go once it's stolen in the decoding station is 1.5 minutes. Goes down every 30 seconds. It starts at 3.5 minutes. The second steal would be 3 minutes, and so on and so forth. But the lowest it can go is 1.5 minutes. There's a chance we could run out of the clock. And the last note I will make for the people at home is you have to be alive when the Mandel brick finishes decoding. Post-mortem Mandel brick decode does not count towards your total. There's all my rules and regulations. Tiff, as we jump into the action, talk me through this map.
All I see are 3 teams full sending it straight towards Royal Museum. The difference maker here is that AKA is going to be one of them that is rotating in from the southern side of things. They are going to have a differential when it comes to the fights here because 2 of the players are walking in with the blue helmet, blue armor. As you can see, Articuno will be one of them. 60 MG is the only one on purple. Granted, they are coming in with purple ammo, so I'm feeling a little better about their chances in terms of fighting, but they need to be able to shoot hard and hit first.
That's right. 3 teams around the Mandel brick. And again, it is on a timer before you can pick it up. That timer is roughly around 3 minutes at the start. So you're going to see that when it gets to 17 minutes, that's when they're going to be able to actually grab the Mandel brick. So these teams are just setting up for that right now. But it was Bay in yellow. Black and yellow, I think you just mentioned, not here. All the way down at the south side of the map. Really important for them. Likely going to see black and yellow be at the top of the leaderboard in terms of loot value this game if they're able to loot up all of the Tower of Babel by themselves.
All right, get those traps out, January. Okay, so at least we're kind of getting situated to look for a siege here into Royal Museum. Now, of course, you do have SFC that is towards the north of the map. Now, you think about the decoding stations. Typically, we've been seeing Market a lot more lately. Asura Camp still relatively open and definitely proves for some crazy sight lines. Hotel, oftentimes not going to be that favored choice. So still got to keep tabs on where we're moving. But JTH has actually found themselves out on the western side of Royal Museum. So if something does go amok, which of course it will here inside the museum once that Mandel brick spawns, they're going to keep close tabs on it.
Great shout. We'll keep you updated on where our teams are at. Right now, SFC in the green is on the north side of the map around the market. I'll start creeping towards the museum as well. The south side of the maps contain Tower of Babel is going to be Bay. Right here, of course, the layer cake. And I apologize, it's 3.5 minutes, not 3, my bad. Should open up here at 16:30. And then you're right, Jack Tan and Handsome just outside the museum, just off screen, waiting for this first team to grab the brick and sprint out of this POI. Everyone patient.
Yeah, definitely patient, but black and yellow found a nice red item worth like 300k. So definitely paying off looting the Tower of Babel for them. What they're going to be late to is this Mandel brick, but they're going to have access to potential easy rotation up towards the decoding stations.
A great shot, and they're proving that we know ball. When you have the Tower of Babel to yourself, you're going to be at the top of the leaderboard on the left-hand side. You see him at 1.7. Here's a quick look at that map that we just broke down, by the way. It does look like SFC's actually crept in way closer. They're getting into this action here whenever it does break out. The brick is able to be grabbed right now. And there are 3 teams inside the museum, 2 teams holding the outside. In black and yellow, just getting every piece of loot they could possibly get their hands on. Let's see who moves first.
This is very similar, Goj, to what we witnessed on the semifinals that were happening last weekend, is that there were multiple teams that would stand around the Mandel brick, but not actually commit to taking it yet. They didn't want to be some of the first ones, but Killzall, like I said, the only double-digit fragger from the semis, is definitely looking to get involved.
Looks like Jack 10 and Handsome gonna pick up the one part of the 2 parts of the Blue Eagle. Always a funny conversation. Not funny, though. There's a couple bullets to the face. Does look like actually Ink trades blows and wins the encounter, dropping the top fragger from SFC. Loco down first. Just a depleting of resources more than anything else right now. Blue Eagles helicopters trying to help and finish them off. Paid actor there, but so far nobody's moving towards the brick. This could have been an opening signal flare for Mangu's team to maybe make a play for the brick, but nobody's willing to move first. The helicopter outside providing a bit of audio cover for maybe some of these teams to start creep walking towards this brick. You told me it was going to be slow to start things off, and you're right. Good grief. These teams do not want to move first.
Yeah, it's a little more slower than what I was thinking of, but very reminiscent of last weekend for the semifinals. Now, EU, they definitely amped up the pace a bit, and they would have already had the Mandel brick on the move, but it's respectable, right? You do not want to fall out here early. Think about what this is going to do when we kind of mesh all the 8 regions on LAN. It's going to completely shift because you have to adapt to how everyone else is playing and be able to counteract it. For now, we're just going to maintain this slow-ish pace. For black and yellow, they are going to have to leave that Tower of Babel at some point, and will likely dictate depending on if someone does decide to pick up this Mandel brick.
Nice gold bar there from Skies off screen. Well, 300K. They've pumped up all the way over at 2.6 mil. On the left-hand side of your screen, while you've got a moment, because nobody wants to move first. Assets obtained, when you see that tag, that's in this map alone. Just showing the individual map leaderboard. 2.6 mil there for Bay. Mangu's already at 1.1 mil. Some of the gear they've found. So on and so forth. You can also swap it to total assets, and that'll show the overall leaderboard between all of the maps. And look at production. There's the overall leaderboard. Ink at 7.9 in total, including what they found on this map. This won't necessarily take into account the kills, which of course we haven't had any yet. And some of that'll be totaled after, but this will give you kind of a live update on where we're at on this leaderboard, which is nice value add. But wow, 4 minutes passed. I feel like I could be a golf commentator right now.
I mean, you really could. You really could. I watched Happy Gilmore 2 the other day, and the golf commentators were in there. There was like 100 different cameos in that movie. It was kind of wild, but nah, some good moments here, and there'll definitely be some more here. You can see Killzall just kind of prone there on the other side of things, ready for someone to walk into that line of sight. What we could talk about is the fact that we're seeing our first Lunas coming into the mix, right? No one really wants to waste that on a airdrop round. You want to maximize the utilization of that here in these Mandel brick rounds. So to throw her alongside a Toxic, and of course you've got your engineer in terms of the Luru. So this is a strong composition that I was expecting to see on a Mandel brick round. But when you do have kind of your top fragger there, Killzall, locked and ready to go, I just want to see someone kind of poke the bear, right? Someone start a riot, because you know as soon as one team gets involved in a fight, everyone's getting involved.
Yeah, and all the meanwhile, Black and Yellow have found another almost 700K to the graphics card and another gold bar. I mean, they are just farming over there in the Tower of Babel. Of course, some of this is dictated by spawns. Like, if I'm Jack 10 and Handsome, I am kind of not forced to, but the most optimal position is play the outside of this building and wait on somebody to move. I don't think they expected people to sit here for 7 minutes or so. waiting on somebody to go. But they have to kind of play this outside angle because we have to play for this decoding station. You got to remember, I mean, we think back to the semifinals. If you get a mana break, you were making finals. It's not quite that simple for this, but if you get a mana break, you're almost assuredly a top 2 team. Absolutely in the conversation, at least, and able to play for it. But all quiet on western, eastern, middle front. The only ones moving in the south. And they're just looting up.
They're in a world of their own at this point. They are just living their best life, but we are going to get a replay.
Oh, no.
Fine.
I don't think this is Larry. This Croc is Barry, maybe, but he's trying to get active. Really National Geographic style now. I was going to make a David Attenborough joke. I could never live up to that man's name, but they killed the gator. Had to do it to him. That's brutal.
Also, Happy Gilmore, right in our face yet again. Totally fine. But we start hearing all the noise in JTH from the west. And I believe this might actually be the Blue Eagle that's trying to start something.
Yeah,
so...
I mean, hey, we had to call on the devs and say, ring, ring, hey, let's get this Eagle shooting at people to get things moving. That's exactly what's happening. They do finally take down the actual pilot. They killed the co-pilot earlier, found the angle on the pilot. Now, you can loot up this helicopter, too, so you actually could find some decent loot out of it. We'll see what they're able to find. Hey, yo, nice. Little key card, not too bad. Nothing super expensive. Looks like it was about 300K or so. 2 of them. Take that. Actually, sorry, that's not what I thought it was. That's the survey. I was about to say, there's no way the key card's cheap. That's the Muse survey. Nice. Actually, some pretty solid loot. Pushed them up to about 800K. We take the museum surveillance rune. It is a key card. All right, I'm getting baited.
It's totally fine. They didn't have anything that was of value until this initial moment. They had just kind of been anchored down looking for third parties. But I do want to prioritize the fact that North America, they're playing smart. They don't want to take a fight that is going to be just not in their favor. So whether or not that's being conservative, waiting for someone else to pick up the Mandel brick and escort it up to a decoding station where then they can rip it from them, I understand that play.
You know, Tiff, that's a nice caster way of putting that this team strategy, all team strategy on this map, besides black and yellow, is to just wait for somebody else to make the first move. Which I think is the right thing to say. I do want to yell at them and punch them and tell them to get to moving because I want to see some action, but I agree. Strategic gameplay is the right answer. Not violence. Strategic gameplay. We're playing for a spot at land. We're playing for a spot to compete for 500K. A big moment. Black and yellow have jumped up the leaderboard quite dramatically and have closed the gap. This is total assets on the left-hand side, so the margin's quite thin here. And they're saying, wait, did everybody else, like, leave or something? Should we just go get the Mandel brick? They haven't heard a peep besides Blue Eagle, who's now dead. That's the NPC. This might be a world record for the lowest steps taken in a game of Delta Force. All right, here we go. Let's go. Ink, you're my heroes. I knew you guys would be the first to move. You were slaying out in the first game. It only took you almost 10 minutes, but we've got the brick and we're on the run and everybody knows it. The floodgates are open and we don't got a lot of time on the clock here, Tiff. I think this is going to be a race against their opposition and a race against the clock, and they are sprinting to a decoding station. The question is, do they go to market or do they head all the way over to camp? Where, funny enough, look who's rotated to camp early. It's black and yellow trying to read them like a book.
So that's awesome because JTH was kind of on the west sitting on one. And of course you had SFC that might have been lurking towards that mid-map to another decoding station. So black and yellow, after completely looting the new Tower Babel by themselves, they rotate over to Osira camp, which is exactly where Ink is heading. So now where you look to see where Bay specifically has positioned. Zomo here kind of playing off this ledge, threading towards this kind of lookup, will have such clean shots depending on how they decide to filter through this. But he could just also say, hey, you know, I'm getting some audio cues. I'm going to go ahead and back up, maybe hide behind this. How do we want to assess this fight and kind of start that moving? But they actually, wait a second.
They've got a decoding station. This is the first time we've ever seen a team do this. Not only world record for how long it takes to take the first steps on our map. I think this is the first time we've ever seen in these competitions, correct me if I'm wrong, rotating all the way down to reservoir area for the decode. They knew everybody else was north, or at least they expected it. And so they've rotated all the way to the south to play for this decoding station. What a move.
Yeah, so most people don't pick this one, so I almost kind of ignore it. But yes, this is a very viable decoding station. Of course, it's a smart move to play. Now, here's another reason why I think this is super incredible, is waiting so long in this match duration, which has only been about 20 minutes, you're forcing the hand of teams to amp their pace up, right? Because the moment they steal it, there's a good chance that there actually won't be enough time to decode it. And throughout the journey of trying to get to the reservoir station, all of our teams are starting to collapse on each other.
Yeah, a great find here. Here's a look over top of this fight. SFC trying to play the backside of this engagement because black and yellow was the first to rotate. They came out of camp. Everybody knows where the decoding station is and where this mantle brick is. And so these two teams immediately tried to rotate there, but they didn't read that black and yellow were already at camp. So black and yellow rotate early. They hear the footsteps behind. They catch one in transition. Loco is down. Top fragger out, and it's a 3v2. This is not for the mantle brick, though. This is for first to the mantle brick. And with a knockdown, talk about the efficacy of Viren on main stage. A perfect knockdown and a perfect cleanup. Well done from Zomo. Black and yellow moving different on this map.
And that's wild because SFC is the team that completely annihilated the semifinals in Group B. 2 mantle bricks, 29 million, just really excelled. But now down to just a solo here in match number 2. Likely not going to be getting a mantle brick for themselves here. And we'll have to wait until they get it back on Space City. For AKA, though, bottom of the leaderboard with 3.4 million asset. We're going to have to kind of get things moving. Now, where they're situated is going to be close to that middle of map extract if someone does decide to pull the lever.
It's going to be first.
Mandelbrick.
It's going to be first to Mandelbrick, potentially rotating through Tower of Babel. And I want to say that Ink is holding this angle already. Killzall's in the corner. He's behind them. Should have the easiest flank of his life. They don't know he's here. Trigger discipline. I like it. He knows if he shoots first, they can turn and kill him. Finds one that was already weak, finds the other. Suniva isn't able to get the knock. Maybe a hair too much discipline, but picks up one, and it looks like Killzall with Eze able to trade out another. So it's going to be a 2v1, a perfect setup from Killzall to be able to play the trades. And with this 2v1, the enemy has seized the mantle brick. Take a look top middle quickly. There is no more room on this mantle brick timer. 320 on the decoding timer, 322 on the overall map timer, and Ink has wiped JTH. What a setup from Killzall. All of a sudden, black and yellow, the team to watch out for. They've got the decode going, and if anybody steals it, I don't think anybody can get it.
Well, it looks like FC is going to get one of their players on up, and for AKA, still trying to hit a regain here. God, this is just wild. Killzall's nutty.
Is a perfect setup. We've got to watch that back in the replays. They played one out prone behind, played the trades from behind, caused enough commotion to win the fight overall. The problem is black and yellow were rotating up from the north because they won the fight in SFC. Because they were able to do that, they now have full control over the decoding station and the opportunity for Ink to get back into this game after they've lost 2 players. So Ink's down to 1. AKA's down to 2. Black and yellow have the advantage and currently the mantle brick, but they have to play extremely close to this decoding station, Tiff. If this gets stolen again, no one's getting the mantle brick.
Which is what the majority of our lobby would rather have. We would rather have no one get it than a team claim it. So to play to perfection is going to be difficult. With 2 minutes on the clock, you can see the first opponents, the challengers towards the mantle brick are lurking. AKA, keep your eyes on January. That crouch walking is going to make him be one of the first players there. But SFC is taking the same initial rotation, and Sky is read it. Picks up spades, hits the full, and it's going to be tough here for SFC.
Golly, shooting nukes. Didn't even have a chance. A huge take. Neva operator is going to be a tough one to deal with. They don't care too much about that. You've got to protect this station. It does look like Johnner, by the way, is basically playing on the decoding station smartly, so should be able to trade out one. As long as a full team of 3 doesn't rush it, he should be okay for Skies to play this long angle. And I think he's being called back by his team right now. He and Zomo both turn to maybe try to help out Johnner because they hear some footsteps behind. Somebody smoking the decoding station. No, not yet. We still have time.
I fear that all of these teams might descend upon the decoding station at the exact same time, knowing that as long as we get it from them, no one gets it, thus diminishing the amount of mantle bricks throughout the total series down to 3. But Zomo picks up another. SFC, though, instead of fighting the team for the mantle brick, they're just taking out whoever they can find in Mengu. That is unfortunate for you.
Yeah, we've got a lot of trades happening right now because they have to. 60 seconds on the clock, or less now, 45 seconds. SFC finding a sizable amount of kills. We actually lose Skies from the backside. This is bad news if you're black and yellow. If you want this mantle brick, you've got to win some of these gunfights. You're going to have to go huge. As Skies is down, we only have 2, and Johnner's not looking at the decoding station right now. Now he can play the low side. As long as Johnner doesn't get taken, nobody can take this decode. He has to stay looking at it, though. Somebody's going to make a run for it, and they're going to lose it. I don't think he hears the footsteps up above, and they lose it. SFC, he turns away just for a moment. Maybe he gets called off of it. No one will get the mantle brick in game 2, and now it's just a slugfest for the next 10 seconds here, Tiff. All of these kills worth 300K. No one getting out of this map.
No one is getting out. Everyone's losing something. We just wasted so much time, and now no one gets a mantle brick.
Force Invitational Qualifiers North American Regional Finals, and here is our match leaderboard. This is just from match 2 here, Tiff. We went to Brackish, and it was, well, frankly, extremely slow until the very, very end. And it looks like black and yellow, as expected. They stuffed their safe boxes full of everything they could get their hands on because the Tower of Babel was theirs for the taking. So they went out because not a single player got out of this lobby.
Yeah, and that's why this match 2 leaderboard is pretty wild. Luckily, black and yellow benefited from looting the entire Tower of Babel, so congratulations to them. But I do love that Mengu was only able to lose 7,600 assets, because that may seem like just such a trivial amount, but what they did was they kind of mitigated any damage that they were really going to take. It's not like they lost a mil, they lost 200,000 at most, and that's going to be ink in your last place team. So I think this was a very interesting round, and there's just no way that match number 4 on Space City is going to go like this once we introduce the next mantle brick.
Yeah, totally agree. Here's a look at the overall, by the way, and talk about razor thin margins. Good grief. I mean, 300K spread is essentially 0. I mean, that spread is nothing. That's a single kill, and these teams get that in well more, actually. Just from the end of match compensation, just to make sure they have something to buy anything with. So you're right. I mean, if you see losing 7,000, that's kind of the total based on everything totaled in. They save the stuff in their safe boxes. They lose some gear. They get some match compensation and overall come out about even. We take that for the most part. Even bottom to top of this leaderboard, Tiff, a 3 million, 3.5 million spread isn't all that much. Just imagine if black and yellow would have said, hey, look, somebody's going to get this mantle brick, or maybe they wouldn't have, because who knows? They just would have grabbed all of their loot from Tower of Babel and just all extracted. They would have been way up on this leaderboard.
Yeah, they really would have. But for right now, we're going to keep it close. And I kind of like this. I understand if match number 2, that pacing may have been slower than usual, but this is just going to make that leaderboard so incredibly tight. And as we look towards our brackish match in match number 3, it's going to be an airdrop